Hi, I'm George Brenneman.
Keith NFL.
And we're here with the Restore Wellness Podcast, and our special guest today is Jim Collins.
Jimbo Collins, how you doing?
Jimbo, you prefer Jimbo.
Yeah.
So your shop's down on Harrison Avenue here in Cincinnati, Ohio?
Yep.
How'd you get into this? What is it does, and how are you?
I've had Jimbo's now for 22 years.
Oh, wow, that's a long time.
Yeah. So it opened up when I was, back in 2003. And it's just, I built a business around my passion, my passion of bodybuilding and fitness, and it's been my life. And I've been able to kind of take it and share my passion with others and lead them on their fitness journeys on their level.
So over 20 years, about how many people have gone through Jimbo's?
I don't know, thousands
Okay.
of transformations and success stories with people's bodybuilding and fitness journeys.
So is the main goal getting them in better shape or getting them to look better?
It's the first thing I do with somebody, we do an initial consultation, and I ask them what their goals are and what they're looking for. And then as they start talking, I kind of help them re-identify their goals, because a lot of times people don't really know what they want. I want to get in shape, and what does that mean? Do you want to be stronger? Do you want to be leaner? Do you want to be more muscular? So everybody wants to look good, everybody wants to be healthy, but it depends on where they're at in their phase of life. And then I kind of help them become the best version of themselves,
Cool.
Body, mind, and spirit,
Oh, really? Okay. So you do take kind of I always think that is the Eastern philosophy of Tai Chi or Karate.
Yeah. Well, I just feel like if you're if you're taking care of yourself physically, you're going to improve every aspect of your life, so it's, I say that, when you take care of, your fitness journey, then you're going to become better in your career or your relationships or anything else too. So.
Right. That's one of the reasons that, we decided to bring Jim on today, is because we believe that, restoring your wellness takes, a holistic approach, not just your diet, not what you drink or how well you sleep, but also how well you exercise. And since aligning with Jim, we have seen many different people transform their lives from a disease state into a wellness state. And I feel that Jim possesses that niche that allows people to understand the importance of physical fitness, not just your standard, I'm going to stretch and I'm going to do my treadmill for 20 minutes. This is changing and revolutionizing your body. It's restructuring everything that you thought you knew and did, and the health benefits behind all of that. And so, Jim, tell us a little bit about why you're not, what I believe, you're not the standard gym rat or the standard kind of guy who just builds
Sits there and pumps it out all day.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, you do the best impression of Arnold, by the way. So give us kind of like, your background story about what brought you into the version of Jim that you like today.
Well, it started with bodybuilding because it was all about, helping people get, stronger and build their physiques. But like I was saying before, there's so much more to it. Understand how to put every piece of the puzzle together to maximize their goals. Teaching, the nutrition aspect, cardiovascular exercise, rest and recovery, the importance of resistance training. And then it's like putting everything together to maximize the results. If you just do resistance training and your nutrition's terrible, or you're not sleeping, you're not taking care of your whole body, then you're never going to maximize the results. And so people spin their wheels in fitness. I mean, people join gyms every day, all over the
Every January.
Yeah, every January. And with no guidance or no blueprint or protocol, people get frustrated and they fizzle out and they don't make a lifestyle. So I'm a personal trainer, but more so I'm a fitness lifestyle coach and counselor. So I like to I'll take somebody and teach them everything it takes. And hopefully along the way, if they develop the proper mindset, then they'll be successful. But
they can keep doing it after they don't go to the gym anymore.
Well, it's for them to really reach their goals and become the best version of themselves. It's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot of intestinal fortitude and discipline and dedication and all that to be consistent and make it a lifestyle. It has to be a priority.
Yeah, you have to make your life a priority, I believe, and your physical fitness has to be in that arena. You can't let that part of your life go because everything's going to follow it. And like you said, discipline in the physical world can allow you to overcome challenges mentally and emotionally and spiritually too. You know, if you can overcome a physical challenge, you're more likely to use that energy to overcome a mental or physical or spiritual, whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. Can you give us an example? Let's go back in the Rolodex of the patients, or in your case, clients that you've helped. Give us an example where you felt like, wow, this has been a game changer. This person really did the work. So, you know.
Well, there's a lot. I mean, my niche has been, preparing people for bodybuilding and fitness competitions, which is what I like, because if someone comes to me and they're motivated and they have the mindset, then I can just take them that much further, and that's really rewarding. And they have the inner drive, and then obviously if they have all the tools, like I always say, if someone guarantees effort, then I guarantee results. It'd be physiologically impossible to follow the protocol or my protocol or whatever I lay out and not get results. It just wouldn't happen. So that makes it enjoyable when I can take someone to that level and compete in bodybuilding and kind of do like what I do, the women that compete in fitness and figure. So I've done countless number of athletes like that. But then just as rewarding is when I have somebody who's not an athlete, and it's not about performance, it's about effort, and they come in and they are dedicated to it, they're disciplining themselves to it, and I see their mind change. I see the development of their ability to find the end of themselves and push themselves and really dedicate themselves to this process. And I mean, I've got clients who've lost, I had a female lose, over 200 pounds. I've had countless people lose over hundreds of pounds. I mean, so there's a lot of really amazing body transformations. And when someone transforms their body like that, it's you're automatically going to transform your mindset too. Mm-hmm. You can't do one.
You look different. You feel different.
Yeah, and what you took to go through the journey, like it's the beautiful thing about fitness and getting in shape is it's not a lottery ticket. You have to earn it. You can't just wake up one day. You can't buy it.
So you can't take a GLP-1 and show up looking great the next day.
Right, and so that's the thing. It's basically, when you go through the work, you have to go through that part of it, and that's going to be what really builds your mindset.
Right. And that's one. You said a really good point. Something that you can't buy. So many people will go out there and they might buy a facelift, or they might buy a tummy tuck, or they might do something. Be able to afford all the right organics or whatever it might be. But it's time under tension. Mm-hmm. It really is. That you got to get that work in, and it shows. And that's probably the most rewarding thing you can do for yourself. You're at a particular situation where you're changing your entire life structure because of the effort that you're putting in.
Yeah,
and that's a great motivator for all the levels of understanding and how to be well, is putting that time and attention in. Yeah. So you've had some interesting challenges in your life more recently with your father. Do you want to talk a little bit about that and what you found to be helpful?
Sure. Yeah. That's kind of how we met up.
So your dad was somebody you saw?
Well, yeah. I actually heard about Keith during COVID as the ivermectin guy in Harrison. I'm like, that's great. I hear about, I'm learning about this ivermectin during COVID, and there's this guy up in Harrison who's, he's not pushing the jab, and he's giving people ivermectin.
Actually healing people.
Yeah, this is fantastic. Idea. So I heard about it, and then when my dad got diagnosed in June, like I went into this fight or flight mode, and I was like, I have to learn this stuff. Like I just was got obsessed with watching podcasts and researching and studying and reading everything I could to understand. I wanted to understand cancer. I didn't know anything about cancer. I'm not a disease guy. I'm a fitness guy, a nutrition guy, and I was like, I got to figure this out. And so I just read and studied and watched everything I could possibly get my hands on to educate myself on what cancer is and what can we do. And so I was like, well, we got to get you over to the guy in Harrison and get that ivermectin. So I think his first meeting with you, I wasn't there. You guys called me on the phone. We chatted for a minute. We met on the phone. And then after that, we met in person, and our relationship, our friendship kind of developed like that. And Keith's been a great advocate for me and helping me and my dad on this cancer journey that he went on. And he's been doing well. No chemo, none of the traditional Western medicine approaches. Done it all holistically. He's been through a really rough year, but because of God's grace, he's in remission right now.
Excellent.
And this is a really good opportunity to stress the importance of having someone in your corner like you for your father that can do the research, that can can be an advocate for him, because he's scared dealing with the disease process, and you're trying to be up front being the warrior for him, and that's a fantastic way to be. Everybody needs those people in their corner to encourage him to maybe reconsider the way they're managing their current illness, and to move into maybe a more mind, body, and spirit aspect to the healing process, including holistic. I think that there's a lot of new research coming out there. There's a lot of interesting discussion about, the gene theory versus the mitochondrial theory. We're seeing a lot of other opportunities that can help build mitochondria, such as NAD, methylene blue, a keto diet, getting all the bad things out.
Let's slow down a little bit on that one, because one of the things that, Restore Wellness was all about was exactly the journey you talked about. It's not letting the doctors, the hospitals, the insurance companies direct your health. It's taking control of it yourself.
Yes.
If I've got a disease, I'm going to dig in, find out what the facts are, and make up my mind with someone else who's trained in that profession. But I own it. It's my journey. It's my body, or my father's body. I got to do something about it. So first off, this sounds like the perfect why you want a Restore Wellness approach to things. Is if you take control, you can get better results. The second thing I wanted to point out that was really interesting as you went through that story is the books behind you there, Lies I Taught in Medical School, Lies Your Doctor Tells You. The entire emphasis of every single one of those is mainstream healthcare is going to push you in this direction. And that direction is lifetime of drugs, paying the bill monthly. But that's not the answer. The answer is somewhere else. It's either, diet, like keto is now the only thing that actually helps Alzheimer's. They've been trying to develop drugs that you'd be on for the rest of your life forever.
Right.
None of them work. The only thing that works is if you go keto, within 3 months, you're fine.
It's side effects, right?
Yeah. So in that case, you were telling me the story earlier. It's like the hospitals and the doctors were taking you down a totally different path. How did you combat that? How did that feel?
It feels, we have a sick care system in America, not a health care system. I tell people we're at the gym training, we're working out in the gym. This is healthcare.
Yes.
You're doing healthcare right now as you exercise and train and take care of yourself. So once you have a problem, then you got to address it and treat symptoms, and that's what we do with drugs and medicine in America.
Treat symptoms.
Right, treat symptoms. And so I've always had that mindset, and that's always been in my mind. I feel like it's the holistic way, the natural way. There's nutrition on this planet. There's herbs on this planet. There's things that we can use that God put here for us to use for a reason,
Aspirin was just tree bark.
Yeah.
They found people that chewed on it, their headaches would go away, and now you've got aspirin. I mean, ivermectin, I think, was some soil had a bacteria or something in it that they extracted the ivermectin from. So, I mean, it's all
repurposed drugs,
It's not mRNA, that's for sure.
Yeah.
And then, the other thing that we've seen is, as we talked about, the third leading cause of death in America is medical errors. And I think
they argue that it's number one now, actually.
Probably true.
Well, if you count the mRNA vaccine, it probably is.
That's true. So I guess the other term to this is then with that whole experience, especially since COVID, we've learned, hey, maybe we shouldn't be trusting the healthcare system in a sense the way we are, not asking questions, not asking the doctor, tell me what other things that and bringing up difficult conversations that the doctors either don't have time to address or don't want to address because they feel threatened of their own intelligence or understanding of the subject. And that's really where we need as a healthcare to move into, is to have a more collaborative discussion, not an argument, with our care providers. Yeah. And then the other aspect is that there's this narrow window, aka specialty, that anybody wants to really even address. Most people will defer to the primary care for, oh no, address that with your primary care. Talk to your primary care about that. By the time you get to the primary care, they'll say, well, no, let me just put you on a statin. Or they'll say, well, no, you should talk about this topic to a different doctor. And everybody's doing a little bit of accountability shifting instead of, really taking the reins on a person's healthcare. But however, I do agree that the accountability really falls on the patient, right? and what are they doing to get themselves better? What are they doing to educate themselves better? And I think that's a really good thing that you're doing, is that you're really being that middle person and helping advocate for the people that you know. I mean, there's people that come to your gym all the time saying, hey, I got cancer, or my loved one's got cancer. And now you're advocating, whereas before you were like, well, let's work on the body. But now you're becoming this small community icon for advocating for these people that are in your father's similar situation.
Well, it is crazy. Ever since my dad's diagnosis, it's almost like God has sent all these people into my life.
Really? So it's had a ripple effect.
It's just out of nowhere. Like, it's people are just just coincidentally, people be in the gym, hey, my uncle's got cancer. All these conversations, every time I turn around, I'm getting messages just randomly, by coincidence. And so that's not an accidental thing. Right. So
No.
it has been pretty wild. And like you said about the, having to advocate for yourself, when I'll go to these meetings with my dad at the different, his appointments, it's almost like, the oncologists and all the different, they didn't really, you can see they didn't like me being there because I had real questions and I was coming in with some knowledge on my end. And when they look at you and say it's cancer is it's cell mutations and it's a genetic disease, that's where we've learned that it's not. It's a metabolic disease, and it's not been treated as a metabolic disease in the medical world. And we talked a little bit about that before. And there's answers. And so I think, like you said, it is our responsibility to take care of ourselves. But I feel like it's when a doctor knows it's up to them, they're going to give you a drug versus saying, hey, this is up to you to take care of yourself. And it's a lot harder to do it the natural, holistic way. It takes a lot of work versus taking a pill and just hoping that does the job,
Right. So having gone through this years-long process with your dad, what's your big takeaways that you would give people, as advice on how to get through this or what to do?
Well, knowledge is power. Understanding that, learning the disease and what can you do? What control do you have? What can you control? You control what you eat. You can control, exercise. You can control
How you sit in the chair.
hydration. You can control your sleep. I mean, the things that you can control, start with that and be all in. There's no room for error when you're talking about something like this. So with my dad's being pancreatic, it's such an aggressive cancer. He got him on a keto plan. He does well when I'm around. I don't know how he does it all the time. But with the protocol between what Keith put him on and the things that I've done with him, and then another friend of mine, Jimbo in Texas, we got him on a great protocol with ivermectin, fenbenzidol, methylene blue, Metatrol Pro. I mean, all kinds of stuff, and keeping his oxygen levels high, his hydration high, and it's been working well for him. So
Well, that is fantastic news.
Yeah.
So, you have a lot of people that are out there on this health kick, especially since you've been seeing a lot of people on Joe Rogan and Gary Brecka talking about, how your grip strength is important or how the muscular diameter of your thighs are important.
Mm-hmm.
And you've been preaching this ever since day one. And now everybody in the mainstream is talking about it. So for the average person out there that is saying, hey, I got this expert, this physical fitness, bodybuilding professional at my fingertips now, listening to this podcast, what would be some practical tips that you would recommend for someone who's saying, hey, I'm ready to make that change. I'm ready to redefine my body, my existence. Yeah. So,
well, I'd seem biased because I'm a bodybuilder, so I love the muscle building. But if you look at the facts and the physiological, the truth about the body, is there's nothing that's going to replace resistance training. I mean, there's all forms of exercise, and there's all forms of exercise that are great. Cardio athletes, runners, yoga, all these things are fantastic. But when it comes to longevity, building muscle is like having insurance. It's like building. It's like having insurance. It's like having a retirement fund. Because as you age, you're going to naturally atrophy. The older you get, the harder it is to maintain lean mass. And lean mass is directly related to longevity. There's a study that showed that the most important organ in the human body for longevity, everyone would guess heart, lung, brain. It's quadriceps. Your quadriceps is a whole muscle group is considered an organ. So a lot of times people wouldn't think that, but quadricep development is directly related to longevity.
Wow. So on X right now, the trending topics in wellness are carb or carnivore or whatever you want to call it, high protein,
yes, yeah.
low sugar. And the other is amount of muscle equals how long you live.
Yeah. And the reason for the quad thing I was mentioning is because what happens when you quit moving, you start sitting still longer and you're not moving as much. And then that's when your life starts to slowly decline.
Right.
Think about elderly people.
So where do people start? Where once you recognize that, hey, I don't have the muscle mass that I need.
Well, if you've never exercised or trained or been in the gym before and done resistance training, you need to find somebody to you need to hire an expert to teach you and show you how to train and get into resistance training.
And get the proper form.
You need to get into a resistance training program. And once you get into that, it goes hand in hand with nutrition. You can't have one without the other. And then it's basically about setting short-term realistic goals, and making it a consistent lifestyle. I mean, the two most important things you can have for success in fitness is consistency and patience.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the two things that people don't have typically.
Right. I was just going to say.
It's the two hardest things the two hardest aspects that,
Well, that's in our discussions with Brian. He always comes back to, I know I should exercise, but I work all day and I can't do. I'm 100% communal with him as far as it's really tough to do. So you're saying consistency, 3 times a week, 4 times a week, every day?
It all depends on the person. Like I said, I mean, for me, when someone hires me, the first thing we do is we consult. And I look at what they're doing now, and then we develop a protocol based on their level of fitness, their age, their health, and where they're at. And I would typically recommend a minimum of 3 days of resistance training to pretty much anybody. And again, there's so many details involved. I mean, the intensity, the volume that you're doing, and the frequency, the duration of your workout. So there's a lot of variables, and so bodybuilding and fitness is more of an art than a science. It's a science, an art, and a lifestyle.
Okay.
That's what it is. And of the three, I would consider it more of an art than anything, because there's a lot more different ways than wrong and right ways. And everybody's different. So when I take on a client, I have to learn them just as much as they're learning from me. I got to learn how their body's responding to things. And with all my experience, I can take somebody and say, hey, you're very similar to, this person in the past.
50 other people have done the same thing too.
Yeah.
Right. And so you mentioned consistency, you mentioned dedication. The thought that I thought would be interesting too is that you have these caloric demands, right? You have people that, are in excess or they're in a deficit, and you got to titrate that. Yeah. So recognizing to somebody that says, hey, you need to find somebody who's an expert. And you also have to truly evaluate what is your dietary intake and output, and what are you putting into yourself, because what you're going to get in is what you get out. Mm-hmm. Junk in, junk out, vice versa. So, when I consult a lot of patients too, I say, hey, I need you to go see a professional, because there's certain aspects that need a professional, especially in the beginning when you've never done anything. Mm-hmm. I wouldn't go skydiving without an expert, right? And so this is very similar to that. That's why people come to me. Yeah. They need medical advice. And so, and I used to think like, you don't really need to join a gym. Just go, figure this out and go do it. And until I did, there's a lot more benefits than just joining a gym, because you have access to the weights that you need for the resistance training. But there's a culture there too. You see these people working their butt off for their gains. Mm-hmm. And then so you jump in on that, and you see people that are before you and after you. Yeah. And it's this kind of like team effort that you get when you join a gym versus doing it in your basement because, you don't either A, have the money, or B, the time, or whatever it might be, or whatever the lame excuse you might be coming up with to go to the gym. I go to the gym at 10:30 at night sometimes. I'm there until 1 o'clock. That's the only time that I've got available.
He's up there late.
Right. And my point being is that you really need to dedicate and discipline yourself. You got to have that fidelity to yourself. You got to be able to be honest and faithful to you and your goals. And again, this isn't about what you look like. This is about your longevity. It's about being able to move in your environment. It's about, being available to the people that need you. Mm-hmm. And what a great way to do that than to dedicate yourself growing and being stronger. I was just telling you before we started, there's 2 things that you can grow. You can either grow muscle or fat. You really can't do both at the same time. If you're growing muscle, you're not growing fat. If you're growing fat, you're not growing muscle, unless you're in excess or a deficit. Yeah. We'll get into that later. Right? Sorry. Yeah. So, if you had one thing to really encourage our listeners to do, what would that one thing be to get them started?
Hire an expert to lead you on your fitness journey, just like we just said, because you're not going to just go in there and waste your time and spin your wheels. You can maybe get a little bit of something out of it, but you need to have a proper protocol, proper program, nutrition expert to lead you with, if you need to be in a surplus, a deficit, a maintenance plan, understanding stuff, learning your macronutrients, learning your body's needs, understanding what foods work for you, what foods don't work. It's trial and error. It's going to take time, but start with the basics, get in the gym, understand how to train your body, build muscle, build strength, and that's going to build your life. It's going to improve your life.
Build your fortitude.
Yes.
You mentioned a guy came and joined your gym. He was with your gym for like 5 years or something.
Oh, my buddy Steve, he was a member at my gym for, I think 7 years. So he's a member at my gym. It's a 24-hour gym. I got members who don't do personal training. They're members there. And my niche is personal training and coaching and all that. And Steve's acquaintance friend of mine in the gym, like everybody, but I'm always busy saying hi and bye, whatever. But he's a member for 7 years, and he stayed, big and overweight and all that kind of stuff. And one day he actually moved near me, so we live in the same neighborhood. But he told me one time, he's like, I'm going to hire you one of these days, but I'm not going to do it until I'm all in. I'm going to do exactly what you said. I said, all right, cool. Everybody says that. We'll see.
Right.
Yeah. So he did, and he did just that. And we started in his first 3 weeks, he lost 17 pounds. So he was like all in. I mean, that's not your normal results, but he was just basically all in and transformed. And I mean, his weight loss journey has been incredible. Built a lot of muscle, lost a ton of body fat. And he's an example of, the body, mind, spirit, because now he has knowledge. It's part of his life. He'll never go back to the obese guy that he was. He's got an incredible physique now. He looks great and he feels great, and he's gonna have a lot longer life now too.
Oh wow!
Right,
And it's going to be rewarding.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people who come into this industry and say, "Oh, well, I'm old now. That boat has sailed," and that's not true at all either.
Well, speaking of that, I got another guy who's been training with me he started training the first time ever in the gym. This will motivate you. The first time ever in a gym and touched a weight or a dumbbell in his life was 82 years old. And I was training his daughter, and I was training her for quite a while. And she said to me one day, I think you'd help my dad. I said, yeah, bring him up. So he's been training me for 2 years now. He's 84. He couldn't even raise his arm above his head because his shoulders were so bad. Now he's pressing 25-pound dumbbells. He's using all the machines. And he says to me every day, he's like, I can't believe I'm doing this stuff. He said, this is amazing. His life has improved. Now he's 84 years old. His life has just improved. In every aspect, because
his metabolic age is decreased.
Yeah, he can do things, and he can have much more of a vital life, and do the things he wants to do in his life because he's stronger and more physical.
Yeah, and I think that was one of the things I wanted to mention. I'm closer to the 80-year-old guy than I am to you guys, unfortunately. But part of what I think you need that expertise for in exercises when you are this age, doing the exercise the wrong way with either too much or too little weight can cause more damage than good. So getting someone that can show you the proper form.
Yeah. Well, and I mentioned all the time, like that's what ends up happening is I feel like people in their 20s are more serious about their training than in their 30s. In their 40s, we actually get less intense and less serious about our physical fitness the older we get. We should be the other way around. Like every decade we age, we should be even more dedicated to it, more serious than we were. Because you'll see people all the time, oh man, I was in my 20s, I was in great shape. Well, it's more important for you now in your 50s. And even more important in your 60s and more important in your 70s. And that's how you're going to fight, and fight the aging process, and it's hard to do it though. People usually are the other way around, but when somebody hasn't had a fitness journey earlier in their years and they get into fitness in their, say, 50s, 60s or whatever, and they do these transformations. I've had so many people transform. They'll say the version of myself now is 10 times better than I was back in my 20s or 30s.
I can bench more now than I could when I was in college.
That's awesome.
I didn't start working with a trainer until 50s.
Okay.
I think that's a good, and I'm going to kind of put a little, I guess, career dig on what we're doing is that, as you get older, there are certain things that begin to decompensate or whatever it might be. And mixing a holistic medical provider like myself, and a wellness coach and personal trainer like yourself, mixing those together allows us to be able to use some nice anti-aging, properties too, like collagen protein versus, well, both collagen protein and whey protein, or getting some antioxidants, really ramping up a lot of that antioxidant so you don't get the oxidative stress that you get. Staying properly hydrated so you're clearing out that creatine and creatinine, more importantly, when you're building muscle and breaking down muscle. You've heard a lot about NAD and NAD and the benefits of that, and methylene blue for mitochondrial regrowth and health. And how cool would that be to really get down in onto the science of managing bodybuilding in your later years, along with a strong rebuilding of the mitochondria, so that when you are building yourself up, you're building it up well, and not just tearing yourself down and breaking down protein.
Well, it all seems to work together. I think you used the analogy before. You can have, a Corvette, but if you put horrible gas in it, it's not going to run.
Right.
I mean, you have to have the nutrition, the fuel, as well as the muscle and the machinery to make it work.
And Jim, you brought a really good point, and it only drives home one of my pillars of health and wellness, is that you recover and build muscle when you're sleeping. And a lot of people might not be making sleep a priority, and you have helped me make sleep a priority in my life. And it is just another, again, sleep is very important, just like exercising. They're all intertwined.
Well, yeah, when you're actually in the gym training, or when you're exercising, you're breaking your body down. You're not building anything while you're in the gym. You're tearing everything down. It's when you recover and heal from the nutrition and the resting and the sleeping, and that's when you actually build muscle and heal up and repair. So it's definitely a superpower to be able to get your.
So are you saying that I can build muscle by sleeping?
Yes.
All right.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, hey, this has been extremely interesting. Any closing comments? Anything else you want to make sure we don't miss?
Well, I'd say if you want to start getting in shape and changing your life, today's the day. Get in the gym, start exercising, find somebody to lead you, an expert to lead you on your fitness journey, and make it a lifestyle.
Excellent. Keith, anything else?
He's got.
Well, thank you all very much for listening. We'll post Jimbo's information online so you can get it in the comment section. Again, thanks for joining us.